Good afternoon, everyone, dear authors and invited guests. Welcome to the technical session 5B. I am Riddhi Gohil, moderator of this session, and on behalf of Global Knowledge Research Foundation and Knowledge Chamber of Commerce and Industry, it is my great pleasure to welcome you in the 7th International Conference on ICT for Sustainable Development through the Zoom. I hope you will enjoy these two knowledgeable and interactive sessions through the day. Just before we get started, uh, there is a special note for the presenter. You will be given 8 minutes for the presentation and 2 minutes for the question answer. And on 7 minutes, I will raise a gentle reminder to conclude your presentation. And there is another request to all. Please stay still connected with us until the closing remarks. Just before we get started, I would like to introduce to all our chair of the session, Professor Ruchi Nanda, ma'am. I welcome you, ma'am. So, Professor Ruchi Nanda, ma'am, is working as an associate professor and research supervisor in the Department of Computer Science and IT at IIS, Jaipur, India. She has actively contributed in teaching and R&D for in last 17 years. She is also a member of the board of the study, and her area of the interest and research are is a big data, cloud computing, machine learning, and database in SQL, NoSQL, and MapReduce based. She has published and present a number of papers at a national as well as the international level. So, with your consent, ma'am, can we start our first presenter? I would like to invite our first presenter, right?
Yes.
So, our first presenter is Suniti Dutt, and paper title is Sentiment Analysis of Social Media Platforms for Safety in Smart Cities.
Very good afternoon to everybody. Second, I'll be sharing my screen. I'm Dr. Suniti Dutt, Assistant Professor in Chandigarh University, and these are the co-authors. Basically, these are the first-year engineering students who have made this a project under their course of independent project. And in this, students had done the sentiment analysis of social platforms for safety in smart cities. So we are, day by day, more and more being, utilizing the artificial intelligence. So why not employ this particular artificial intelligence into the domain of security in smart cities? So people nowadays, whatever is happening around themselves, they tend to post, their feelings, their comments on those particular happenings on social media platforms like Twitter or Facebook. And the students, they work on this particular aspect that if somehow we could extract the sentiment from the posts, from the tweets that the users are putting up, whether the posts are positive in nature or whether the posts are negative in nature, and the posts are negative in nature, to what sort of extent they are negative, if they can sort of induce some sort of violence in the smart cities and so on. So with every tweet, we also have the geographical data associated with it, and with the help of which we can determine that whether some in some place, due to some mishappening, if the tension is rising amongst the citizens, so at a very proper timing, the officials of that particular smart city can be alerted, so that any sort of violence or mishappenings could be avoided in that particular safety. So as an example, in this particular paper, the students have taken the examples of a very popular tweet, and I will be sharing with you that particular one. In this particular paper, the students have worked with the natural language processing. The students have worked on the Python programming environment, which is easier to implement the artificial intelligence with, and they have incorporated the natural language processing here. We've read about the various systems which are there, already existing systems which are there, which could extract the text from various sources, and they could extract the sentiments, whether a particular text is of negative polarity, or whether a particular text is of positive polarity, or it's a neutral text. And these certain things, they are already in use, like for the reviews of certain products on websites such as Amazon. If the majority of the reviews are writing positively about a certain product, or if the majority of the reviews are writing negatively about a certain product, or even in the critics, the film industry or the book industry, just by manually analyzing all these texts, all these recommendations by the viewers, by the users, would be a difficult task, and AI just automizes that particular task. So in literature, different strategies exist. Like for the Twitter news, this is a system which analyzes the live tweets of the people, and these live tweets are basically grouped or classified according to their uniqueness. All the different types, we have the hashtags there, and all the different types of tweets, they are being grouped according to the location and all that. And then we have events also. The people are posting certain things in certain cities, so with the help of which they group that a certain event is going to take place in a certain locality. So local events are also being gathered around there. Any kind of social events, they are being classified with the help of the tweets or with the help of the Facebook posts that the people are putting up. So in such a manner, certain big and small scale events are also being notified. For example, somewhere some earthquake has happened, and people, they started marking them as safe. We are safe from this particular earthquake, or we are safe from this particular cyclone which has hit this particular region. So all these are nothing but when certain systems are there which are continuously analyzing the text which the people are posting on the social media platforms, and using these texts in security or in the safety of the smart cities to ensure that the officials of that particular city is they act accordingly and timely to avoid any kind of mishap, was the main motivation behind this particular work, right? So uh, use of a software which continuously updates the data set, creating a program which is capable of taking the data and analyzing it from different social media, and to decrease the time of the first responders to an event by relaying the information from them. These are the approaches that the students of this particular project worked upon. So what is happening in this particular process? First of all, whatever input text is coming from the social media platform, it is being taken as an input. Then the polarity of the text is being calculated. If the polarity is equal to 0, then it means that the text is natural, right? It's neutral, it's free from any negativity or positivity. And if the polarity is less than 0, then two things are analyzed. Is the text positive polarity, or is the text of negative polarity, right? And once the polarity is determined, then the subjectivity or the context of that particular tweet or text is being analyzed, and then let's find out whether it's subjective or the objective. So this is the very short, simple program that was written in the Python language. This is one part of that particular code snippet for the sentiment analysis. Simply the natural language toolkit was used, and then whatever text was to be analyzed, that was put in, and simply it printed whether the text was positive, negative, or it was neutral. We took some random tweets from the internet with the hashtag of BLM, that is Black Lives Matter. It was a very subject of out of which it was very troublesome in the USA, and we are in the process of currently taking in some text from the Indian context also, like in the southern states when the text was floating about whether dress code should be popular, what should be mandatory in the schools or not. So currently the students are working on that particular tweets also. So we found out that majority of the tweets of Black Lives Matter were of negative sentiment. That means there was a rising anger amongst the citizens of that particular place, and with the help of this, the officials, they kept eye on any conditions which could result in violence in those particular ones. So this was the findings, and this is the output snapshot from here. And conclusion is that with the help of this small study, this sentiment analysis can definitely be used in event detection for the safety in smart cities in case of any event that is causing negative sentiments amongst the citizens of that particular city. So if social media posts of the users of a specific city, they are analyzed with the help of such kind of AI, the government officials, they can be alerted beforehand, and any sort of tension which is rising amongst the citizens can be tackled with appropriate actions, can be imposed so that we can ensure the safety in the smart cities. Future scope of this particular project could be that we could predict events based upon the user activities. We could make sure that along with this sentiment detection, it could also be incorporated that automatic alerts should be sent to the government or to the concerned officials, and they can provide the assistance as and when required, so as to reduce the response time, the time from which the message is reaching the officials, and the time at which they can take out a necessary action, it can be reduced upon. So these were the things that were touched up in this particular paper. This was a brief thing. In case the officials you want to know more about this paper, I can surely dive into the deeper.
Yes, thank you, Suniti Dutt ma'am,
Yes,
for your presentation. You have brilliantly explained all the things.
yes, ma'am.
Can you throw a light on the project which students are doing over it and the data set they are
Ma'am,
going?
yes, ma'am. The data set was taken from the Kaggle.
Okay,
It was a text file
right.
which was taken from the Kaggle directly, and then it was done here. We are in the process of these students are carrying forward this project further also, and they are
Okay.
in the process of incorporating this thing in the Indian scenario, so as to we can check the feasibility of this project in the Indian scenario. And once
Right.
we are we if we can accomplish that particular thing, because we are searching on the text sentiment analysis in the other domains also, not necessarily in the English language, but in the
Right,
other
right.
local languages also, because people tend to write on these posts, in a English transliteration. So they write in Hindi, but the font is English.
Yes, yes. And nowadays, the concept of Hindi and English, combination of Hindi
Yes,
and
ma'am.
English is going on. So, many papers you can see which comprises of both English and Hindi.
Yes,
Because,
ma'am.
in future, you can, this is just my opinion,
Yes, ma'am.
you can take the live data as well.
Okay, ma'am.
Yes, on live data, this concept will work much better as compared to um, a text data.
Yes, yes,
I
ma'am.
say
Yes, ma'am.
yes.
So we'll surely incorporate the suggestions that you have given.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Ruchinanda.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So next presenter is C.R. Anand, and paper title is Analyzing and Addressing the Difference in Toxicity Prediction Between Different Comments with Same Semantic Meaning in Google's Perspective API.
Hello, are you able to hear me?
Yes, sir.
I hope you can see the screen.
Yes, sir. It is visible. Yes.
Okay, so
Presentation
good
time
afternoon,
is
everyone.
presentation time is 8 minutes, so please stick to the time.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Very happy to be here. I'm Anand here. I'm from Amarda University, and the co-authors S.K. Gargi, Pranav Bhargav, Sridhar Reddy, and are guided by a professor, Anoop Espago. I'll be presenting on behalf of my team, and the topic is analyzing and addressing the toxicity prediction for different comments with the same semantic meanings. So to give a brief introduction about the relevance of this paper, like we know social media is ubiquitous right now. It's almost impossible to escape it. And in this past decades, there has been content that is more targeted towards kids these days. Um, and even our previous presenter, Dr. Sunida ma'am, pointed out how these conversations have toxicity that could even lead to violence. So it's very important for us to shield impressionable kids from these kind of conversations more than ever. And this is a problem that has been recognized by people in the industry. Like Google and Jigsaw came up with a perspective API, which is used by New York Times, WordPress, etc. It detects the toxicity and it can be used as a moderator. The purpose of this paper is we are trying to substantiate that there exists a major discrepancy in the Perspective API and also other APIs available, that when they are detecting the toxicity, when we have sentences with same meanings but different arrangement of words or like different voices for like active and passive, we get different toxicities. Like we have a discrepancy in the toxicity, even though the meaning is semantically the same. So this is one such statement that we're using. You should not be allowed to use YouTube, and used to should not be allowed to be used by you. Have the same semantic meaning, but when we change from active to passive, you can see the active sentence and passive sentence have almost 30% difference in toxicity. Similar pattern can be found in reordered sentences. These kind of informal conversation happen usually in like online discourses. I only wish that for you, only did I wish for you. Semantically, or it contains almost the same meaning, but have very different toxicity predictions in these perspectives. These are some of the later works we referred. Offensive language detection using multi-level classification. It uses like a 3-level classification ML. Hate speech using comment embeddings. What we did with this were we were trying to see if the models that the other people have implemented uh, consider this bias or and can rectify for it. But for most of these models that we found, this bias existed in almost all of them. And moving on to the proposed method, first is we had to create a data set on our own manually. The reason for it, most of the data set that we found did not give us labeled active or passive. And some of them that we found were from grammar websites. But these grammar websites usually have sentences which have no toxicity at all. It usually have less than 5% toxicity in these sentences. And it was not enough for us to substantiate our claim. So we had to create a data set of our own for active passive data set and also reordered data set manually. And this is what we came up with after cleaning. We came up with 300, almost 300 for both these data sets. And these are the methods that we suggest could be used to slightly fix this bias. One is minimum, maximum, average, and weighted average. Like these could be used depending on the use cases. For example, in cases like online platforms like Twitter, which is intended for all audiences, some kind of leeway can be there. You can have some kind of toxicity and still, let it pass. In those cases, you can take the active toxicity, passive toxicity, and just output the minimum of those. But in other cases, for such as like content targeted specifically towards kids, we will have to weed out all possible toxic comments. So in those cases, you can use something like a maximum method, which compares all these toxicities and outputs the maximum out of all of these. So this is a pre-processing layer we are suggesting could be used to uh, counter this bias. That is, we are giving the input text, we are checking for the voice, and we are generating passive and active sentences of these voice. And as we seen before, there is two biases that exist. One is when we change the voice, and one is when we reorder the sentences slightly. So to counter both of them, we will generate these passive and active, and we will generate these possible reordered sentences that are meaningful, and we will predict the toxicity and apply those previous method. And now the output toxicity we get will be much more accurate or much more consistent in both of these cases. This is just going through what I previously explained. These are just some of the examples that we took from paper, from our data set. Like you should not be allowed to use YouTube. YouTube should not be allowed to be used by you.
Sorry
Similar.
for the interruption. You have only 2 minutes left, sir.
Okay. Uh, Almost similar meaning, but vastly different predictions of toxicity. Similar can be done for like reordered and original sentences. So this is the rundown on what I explained so far. I'm getting the active sentence as 72%, passive as 39%. So when I'm clicking the adjust toxicity, we are just displaying the toxicity that we will get if I use one of those methods like average toxicity, minimum, maximum, or weighted average. This is the results that we came up with is we were able to, in order to substantiate more clearly on where these differences come from, we divided our data set into three different parts. Class A, which contains least toxic sentences, class B having moderately toxic, and class C having heavily toxic sentences. And we were able to find that class A usually have no toxic elements, so there is much less difference in these predictions. But class B almost always showed high differences, averaging about 15% difference in class B. And in class C, which had the most toxic sentences, these sentences averaged a difference of about 13%. Similar results were found for reordered sentences too. Class B showed the most toxicity as there is more varying context in these sentences. And class A and class B showed slightly less toxicity. So this is what we were trying to substantiate with this paper, that these differences between active voice prediction and passive voice toxicity prediction are not just one-off situation, but a pattern that consistently occurs. And we were able to come up with this conclusion. And in future, this pre-processing layer could be incorporated into toxicity detecting machines like tunes, APIs like tunes, which is used in a lot of these New York Times, WordPress, etc. These are some of the references that we used to write this paper. And that's about my resolution.
Hello. Can I ask you a question?
Yes, yes.
And what is exactly toxicity, and can you just explain it in reference to the architecture that you have shown in your presentation?
In this perspective API, it like takes any sentences and outputs from 0 to 1 toxicity. So if it is like less toxic, as in if it is not, it doesn't have profanities and it doesn't have like context that indicates any toxicity, like perspective API gives like different kind of like something like race based or gender based violent death threats and stuff like that. So different toxicities, different kinds of toxicities are predicted by this perspective API. So what we were trying to do is, when they are predicting this, they are giving very different toxicity for passive sentences and active sentences. Just changing the sentences changes the toxicity prediction completely. So we don't have access to the perspective model, but we are suggesting that we could add like a pre-processing layer that takes care of this passive active translation, and uh, that way we can just counter the bias without changing the model itself.
Worked on the pre-processing of this pre-processing.
We are not changing the model itself, but we are just adding like pre-processing layer which takes care of this active passive differences and reordered differences.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. All the best.
Thank you, sir. We are moving our next presenter, Amlesh Kukreti, and paper title is Analysis of Operational Amplifier Layout in 45 nanometer technology using matching techniques.
Good afternoon, ma'am. My voice is audible, ma'am?
Yes, sir, it is audible.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. So, ma'am, the title of my presentation is the analysis of operational amplifier. Meanwhile, I'm just sharing my presentation.
Visible, sir.
Okay. A very good afternoon to all of you. My name is Kamlesh Kukreti and I'm pursuing PhD from Graphical University, Dehradun. So the title of my presentation is Analysis of Operational Amplifier Layout. Basically deals with the layout in 45 nanometer technology by using matching techniques. So the table of content will consist of your introduction, problem statements, description of problem statement, simulation setup analysis, and at the end we have conclusion and future scope. So basically, what do you understand the operational amplifier? In the easy way to understand, basically operational amplifier is giving us a very high gain, or you can say it amplifies the weak signal to a strong signal, which consists of very large voltage gain and consists of high impedance and the low output impedance. So it is very useful in electronics industries. So there are basically used in analog as well as mixed signal system. Mixed signal consists of your both analog as well as digital systems, and it can be used as a buffers, some are integrators, comparators, analog digital converters. In most of the circuits, we can use operational amplifier. So basically, we have reduced the size of a transistor from 180 nanometer to 45 nanometer. So basically, it's here some editing is required. So it is 180 nanometer to this 45 nanometer. So problem definition. So what is the problem? So basically, the problem is in the layout of these circuits. So we are getting a problem of latcher. So latcher, I will explain this another slide. So first of all, semiconductor materials basically based on the ICs such as two-stage operation amplifiers. They are promising candidates for the small size, low power losses. So in the mobile phones, we can see that transistor has size has been reduced. So first, I will clarify what do you mean by this 45 nanometer technology or 180. So 45 nanometer technology is the channel length between the source and the drain of a transistor. So we have reduced the size to 45 nanometer. So meanwhile, the problem is the latch up and the mismatching in the layouts of this operational amplifier. So basically for the mismatching, we need to take the different techniques to match the schematic. So matching basically makes the two device identical for the properties as well as parameters. So mismatches can be random as well as systematic. So there are two methods I have used for the matching technique. This common centroid. In the common centroid, it is the layout. We are working on the layout. So it will reduce the distance between the centroids of the match pair to zero. That is why it is called common centroid layout. And second is interdigitization. This means the devices are distributed in the interleaved manner. So I have the simulation which I have used is the Cadence Virtuoso design environment, and it is used for the simulation layout verification of ICs design. So this is a flowchart. First, I have designed the schematic of the circuit. Then I have checked and using this LVS DRC rule. DRC is design rule check. Then LVS is layout versus schematic. Then through various process, I have defined the result. So this is the first circuit which I have used in the operational amplifier. This is the current mirror. So basically, the current mirrors can be used for activating. It is a circuit designed to copy the current through the active device, which can control the current in the another active device. So this is the layout of the current mirrors. So the layer, this polysilicon is zero point 0.5 micrometer. It means if we convert it into the nanometer, it is 45 nanometer. Metal 1 is 0.06 micrometer. Metal 2 is 0.08. And these are the end guard. This is the layout for the current meters. This is the zoom view of the above the transistors. So latch up. So latch up is the problem which we are getting in the layouts. So latch up means it form a short circuit path between the power supply and the ground which allows the current to flow through the transistor, and it is a very high current flow, so it can damage the IC. So this is the, see, basically we are making the circuit using the CMOS technology. CMOS technology consists of your both PMOS and the NMOS, means P-channel metal oxide semiconductor based device. So latch up, this is the what is the solution for to get through this problem if we need to use the guard rings across our device. So this is the simulation which these are the guard rings which I have used in the simulators. So basically this is the operational amplifier. This the technology is GPDPM generic process design kit. Power supply is 1.2, bias current is 20, and these are the parameters. In this circuit, I have get a gain of open loop gain is this 50 dB, which is quite good as compared to other. We are getting the 180 nanometer technology. We are getting 40 dB. So this is a transient analysis. And, as you can see that the input we are giving in millivolt, and at the output we are getting volt. So basically the understanding is to amplify the weak signal. So it is amplifying the weak signal. So this is the parameters like the this is the open loop gain, that is 50 dB. We are getting it in this circuit. So this is the layout.
Sorry for the interruption, sir. You left with the 2 minutes, sir. Right?
Okay, ma'am. So ma'am, this is the layout of the operational amplifier which I have designed in this Cadence Virtuoso 6.1.7. And this is the connection. It is showing that D/ground means it is showing that body has been connected to the ground. And the table is giving us what are the metal layers. It is connected to the another metal layers of the another transistors. So it is the complete layout of operation amplifier. This is the zoom of this NMOS. These all are the NMOS based transistor, and this is the polysilicon, that green you can see. So this is a zoom in view of the operational amplifier. And now this is this operational amplifier using common centroid method, means the mismatching can be reduced by using the matching techniques. So here, these are the parameters which I have taken. The area basically it is 0.00989 millimeter square of the whole design, including the guard rings. So this is the red, you can see it is the metal. Okay, and green one is polysilicon. So basically, ma'am, this what do you mean by this common centroid and interdigitization method? So let me tell you, ma'am, this common centroid layout, they are those that can decrease the distance between the centroid device to 0. So it is very good at reducing the effects of thermal or linear processes. Meanwhile, the interdigitization, it consists of the series of the device arranged in a array in one dimension, you can say. So in this technique, the process variation which is along the axis, it can only be divided for the number of fingers. So basically what we have concluded from our work. So basically, ma'am, we have designed a two-stage high gain operation amplifier. So after designing that, its layout has been designed using the matching techniques, so that to eliminate, we have eliminated the noise and to reduce the resistance and capacitance. And also we have eliminated the latch-up problem. So basically it has been designed in this Cadence Virtuoso, and it's attained a DC gain of 50 dB. And then we also have obtained a unity gain bandwidth of 23.77 megahertz. And these are the references. And thank you and have a nice day.
Very well presented, Kamlesh Kukirti, Mr. Kamlesh Kukirti.
Okay, thank you.
So you belong to which stream? I mean, are you doing some project or?
Well, I'm pursuing this PhD from Graphic Era University. Basically, I'm working in IC design.
Okay, ICT design.
IC design, integrated circuit.
Okay, okay, okay. Okay, wish you all the best for your future endeavors.
Okay, thanks a lot, ma'am. Very grateful.
Next one.
Yes,
Thank you.
ma'am. Yes. Next presenter is Ajay Kumar Gupta, and paper title is Analysis of Public Perception of Autonomous Vehicle based on the unlabeled data from Twitter.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay, I'll just share my screen. Is it visible?
Yes, sir, it is visible.
Okay. Okay, I'm Ajay Shankar Gupta, and today I'll be presenting my paper on the topic analysis of public perception of autonomous vehicles based on unlabeled data from Twitter. I am the primary author of this paper, and this was co-authored by my faculty guide, Dr. Shilpi Sharma. So the notion of autonomous vehicles dates back to 1939, when General Motors unveiled the first EV model at the World's Fair. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, or the NHTSA, established six levels of automation in vehicles, ranging from only momentary driver assistance to full automation. Currently, all commercially accessible autonomous vehicles are either at level 2 or level 3. And R&D in the field of autonomous vehicles has continuously improved since its debut. The revolution began in 2003 when Tesla was formed. However, like any other technology, it has its fair share of controversies. Yeah, and fortunately, the general public can express opinions on any topic more easily than ever before, due to the increasing use of microblogging sites like Twitter, Instagram, and Reddit. And the data from these microblogging sites can be used to analyze the general public's opinion on autonomous vehicles. So the goal of this research is to show how public data from microblogging sites may be utilized to assess the general public's level of technology acceptance and understand what makes them anxious about new technologies. So acceptance by the general population is a huge barrier for any new technology, not just autonomous vehicles. And this is the problem statement for, this was the problem which we were trying to tackle in our research. So as discussed in previous research on socio-psychological factors influencing public acceptance, uh, many innovations are frequently rejected by the general public due to controversies, which harms their public acceptance and by extension, commercialization of these technologies. According to the research on the effect of anxiety on the acceptability of autonomous vehicles, people who were more nervous about autonomous vehicles were less likely to accept them, regardless of their benefits. Anxiety impairs people's positive opinions of this technology. And given recent investments in AV R&D, as well as the potential that this technology may have in the society, it is crucial that the general public must not reject this technology. So let us now examine the findings of previous studies and surveys. The benefit rate in the study expecting the acceptance of self-driving cars done by Cole, Christopher, and others was in the range of 42% and 46%. In a similar survey, such as the study that we conducted for United States, United Kingdom, and Australia, it was discovered that 56.8% of respondents had a positive perception of autonomous vehicles. While in another study conducted in Germany, 46% of people had a positive perception of autonomous vehicles. These results were served as a baseline for our analysis. So this is the conceptual model of the whole process that was used in the analysis. And they were in total 4 steps that I'll go over now. The first step was data extraction. For fetching the data, we used the open source Python library, Twint. So it was preferred over Twitter's API as there are some limitations imposed by that API, such as the ability to only fetch only the last 3,200 tweets and other rate limitations. We gathered public tweets over the last 4 months that included any or all of the following hashtags and queries, keywords. And we were able to retrieve around 35,000 tweets, the oldest of which dated December 2nd, 2021. The tweets were then subjected to a range of preprocessing procedures to remove any irrelevant content. To accomplish this, we first filtered out all tweets in English and removed records that contained tweets in other languages. All of the tweets were then converted to lowercase and URLs, ticker symbols, mentions, and single letter words were replaced with blank spaces. Finally, we utilized the NLTK package to limitize, tokenize, and remove any stop words from the tweets. However, limitizing and tokenizing were not required for an analysis. They were required to create the word clouds that will be explored in the later steps. The third step involved the use of Vader's sentiment intensity analyzer for sentiment analysis. So Vader or Valence Aware Dictionary and Sentiment Reasoner is sentiment analysis tool, which is rule-based, or we can say lexicon-based. Moreover, it is specifically tuned for social media sentiments. In previous research, it has been proven useful for its use in analyzing social media sentiments, as it performs well with slang and emoticons. Since it is rule-based, it can be used without any trading, which makes it extremely useful for small startups who do not have the necessary funds for hiring an NLP specialist or freelancers who do not have the technical knowledge of sentiment analysis. So from the word grading, Vader generates 4 sentiment metrics. The first 3, which are positive, neutral, and negative, deal with the extent of the information that falls under those categories. And the final metric, which is the compound score, is the sum of the lexical grades, which has been standardized to a range between -1 and 1. So we use the weighted sentiment intensity analyzer function to return the compound value of all the tweets and created a new column called sentiment that included the strings positive, negative, or neutral, depending on the compound value. And then with all the tweets having corresponding sentiment value with them, we plotted the data to obtain the distribution of each sentiment value in it. So it is clear, sorry, it is clear from both of these figures that the majority of tweets had either a positive or a neutral sentiment, and only 61.2% of tweets had a negative sentiment. This suggests that the majority had an overall positive perception of autonomous vehicles, which is a good sign for its acceptance in general public. Moreover, our metrics were similar to the similar studies which were discussed before. Finally, we use the word cloud library to create 2 word clouds, one for the top words in tweets having positive sentiment and another one for the top words in tweets having negative sentiments. This gave us the idea about the topmost recurring words which were there in those tweets. We observed that tweets with the positive sentiment had contained words such as future and innovation. These words demonstrate the public's excitement and interest in this technology. As for the tweets with negative sentiment, we observed that they contain words like kill, death, dangerous, accident, and crash. This suggests that the people who have a negative perception of autonomous vehicles believe that they are dangerous as they have resulted in accidents.
Sorry for the interruption, sir. You have only 2 minutes left.
Yeah, sure. This suggests that the people who have a negative perception of autonomous vehicles believe that they are dangerous as they have resulted in accidents leading to loss of human lives in the past. Including it, we concluded from an analysis of around 32,000 tweets that the level of technology acceptance in the general public for autonomous vehicles is good. However, when considering the sample size of our data, 16.2% of negative tweets is still a relatively large value. So it is crucial to rectify the problems that this technology currently has. Additionally, from the word clouds, we inferred that the more excited and interested the general public is about new technology, their level of technology acceptance will increase. While also there's a need for firms to constantly improve this technology by listening to the opinions of the consumers. Failing this could lead to fear and reluctance in people to accept these new technologies, let alone try them. And with that, I conclude my presentation. These are the references. Thank you for your time.
Can you just brief me what is the contribution of your paper?
Pardon?
Contribution of your paper.
Conclusion? I couldn't get the word.
Contribution of your paper. Main contribution of your paper.
Yeah, the main objective was to understand, not understand, to understand the reasons which, for this specific technology, we wanted to understand what are the specific reasons why some people are anxious about this. And also we proposed, not proposed, we basically provided a method through which even small startups or freelancers can determine how their products are affecting the public, and how the public how the public is accepting their products. The technology acceptance part was the main objective of our paper, to understand technology acceptance.
Okay. So, are you going to use in future any particular methods to validate this thing?
Yeah. The one of the major, I can say, the obstacles in this was there was not much relevant data available for this. So there was not many ways through which we can check if our data is accurate. Yeah.
Yeah, certain matrices are there that you can use and compare it with the previous work.
Yeah. That we did in the study. We compared our results, which we got a positive percentage of 43%, and in previous researches, they had similar results around 42 and 46% here, and 56 and 46. The previous researchers were used to validate our data.
Okay. In future, you can use validation matrices also.
Yeah. We'll definitely consider it in future.
Yes.
And also, we can also, for future work, we can also, instead of using a rule-based sentiment analysis tool, we were considering of using a more sophisticated method of sentiment analysis, which will be more accurate than this.
Okay.
Okay. So next presenter is Somen Sarkar, and paper title is the effect of measurement site on heart rate variability derived from photoplethysmography.
Good afternoon, everyone. Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Somen Sarkar. I am going to present my paper on 7th International Conference on ICT for Sustainable Development. My paper title is Effect of Measurement Sites on Heart Rate Variability Derived from Photoplethysmography. Authors of this paper, myself, Somen Sarkar, and Dr. S.K. Pauja is my guide. And we are from Dr. B.R. Ambedkar National Institute of Technology, Jalandhar. Introduction. Photoplethysmography is a non-invasive, simple optical technique basically used to obtain blood volume changes in periphery, such as artery, and this technique invented by Hartmann in 1937. Basically, there are two types of PPG technology. One is transmission and reflection type PPG. In transmission mode is suitable only for body site with thin tissue such as index finger, earlobe, whereas reflection mode is suitable for most of the body site such as wrist, index finger, or earlobe, or even forehead. And PPG technology normally used to obtain various physiological parameters such as SpO2, blood pressure, and heart rate in the healthcare sector. However, the quality of the extracted physiological parameter depends on the measurement site, motion artifacts, and the respiration. Further obtained features such as peak area, peak amplitude, peak time, dichrotic notch, and reflection index, which reflects the status of the cardiovascular and peripheral properties, have been examined. However, heart rate variability or HRV did not fully investigated. Basically, heart rate variability or HRV represent the variation of the time interval between consecutive heartbeats. This is a typical PPG signal. You can see this is a typical PPG signal. The peak of the interval between those two peaks calculated as the HRV. HRV is controlled by the autonomic nervous system. Therefore, finding any abnormality in HRV could help in diagnosing any neurological disorder. There are two types of HRV: higher and lower HRV. Higher HRV is normally associated with good health. However, lower HRV is associated with coronary heart disease such as heart attack, and anxiety disorders. Objective of our work. Initially, we have examined the effects of measurement sites and breathing pattern on PPG signal. However, our main objective of this work is to investigate the influence of measurement site and breathing pattern on HRV heart rate variability, which is derived from PPG signal. Methodology and implementation. For this experiment, we have used a BioPack MP36 module with SS4L electrode, which is connected with channel 2, a PPG sensor, a reflective type PPG sensor with infrared light source was placed inside this red tape. For this experiment, we have recruited 5 people, 4 men and 1 woman, and the data recorded in sitting position with normal mode and first breathing mode. This is the flowchart of this experiment. Further, for analysis and HRV calculation, we have used LabVIEW software. And for pre-processing, basically filtering the signal, we have used Chebyshev IR filter of order 6. And to analyze the effects of influencing factor on HRV, analysis of variance or ANOVA with a post-hoc test was applied. Students t-test with bone Ferroni correction was used as a post-hoc test. The criteria for statistical significance must be p less than 0.05 for all tests. This figure shows the PPG signal recorded from various sites. This is a PPG signal recorded from, this is a raw PPG signal recorded from finger, and this is a PPG signal after filtering. This signal is this filtered signal. It is recorded from finger. This is from wrist, and this signal recorded from earlobe, and this is from also finger, but in first breathing mode. From this figure, we can see that the wrist, finger, and the earlobe PPG signal is more clear and stable compared to the wrist PPG signal. This is the waveform of the HRV, which is recorded from various sites. We can see that the finger HRV is higher than other sites. Even the HRV is not a constant parameter; it varies with every beat. There is an ANOVA test result. In ANOVA test, we consider two hypotheses. One is null hypothesis, which represent no significant variation in mean between groups, and another one is the alternative hypothesis, that is H1. This is which represent the significant variation in mean between. Now, this is the HRV recorded from this bar represent the HRV recorded from finger. You can see, and if we compare this bar with wrist HRV, you can see the p value or probability value, which is 1.8 into 10 to the power minus 7, which is less than 0.016. Therefore, you can say that the HRV between finger and wrist has a statistical significance. And if we consider this finger and the earlobe also, there is a p value is 0.0037, which is also less than 0.016. It is also shows statistical significant, and p-value between finger and the HRV measured from finger and the first breathing. There is a p-value also. P is of 5.79 into to the power minus 7, which is also less than 0.016. Therefore, we can say that the HRV measured from finger and other side has a statistical significant conclusion. Therefore, we can say that this study confirmed the effect of measurement sites on PPG signal. You can see this from this figure. We can conclude that the PPG signal recorded from various site has various characteristics, and the breathing pattern also significantly deform the waveform of the shape. You can see from this is the PPG signal recorded from finger, but in first breathing mode. Characteristic of this signal is disturbed very badly because of breathing. And our result confirm the measurement site and breathing pattern significantly affect the heart rate variability. From this result, we can conclude that the measurement sites and the breathing pattern significantly affect the HRV. HRV has its own significance in diagnosing cardiovascular disease. In our future work, so we'll extract various pictures from HRV and use different machine learning classifier to diagnose several cardiovascular disease as well as neurological disorder. All these references I have taken for this research work. If anyone have any question, you may ask.
Yes, very different type of work you have presented here. Can you just explain me how you took the data?
Thank you, ma'am,
yeah.
for showing your interest. This is the BioPack MP36 module. Okay, this is the electrode. This is the electrode, which is the wire. Inside this tape, there is a sensor, PPG sensor inside this PPG sensor, and the PPG sensor is consist of a light detector, light source, and the electronic circuit. Inside it measure the blood volume. Any blood volume changes, it record. This sensor recorded blood volume changes. Any blood volume changes in the periphery, such as artery, we can measure this using this BioPack MP36 module.
This you can take from finger and ear and whatever sources you have mentioned.
Yes, ma'am. We have taken also the result from finger, wrist, and ear. Even we have tried to record the signal from forehead, but forehead signal is not the PPG signal recorded from this type signal from forehead is not good. So we rejected this place, and connecting a sensor on the forehead is not a practical also. So we rejected this place.
I mean, you have taken the heart rate, if I am not wrong, you are measuring the heart rate.
Not exactly heart rate, rate variability.
Okay, heart rate variability.
The interval between every heartbeat, our heartbeat, if we consider every 2 heartbeat, there the time interval between every 2 consecutive heartbeat is not constant.
Yeah.
There is a variation in the heartbeat, the time interval.
But not much variation, because if variation is there, that means we have certain issues related to cardiovascular system. Am I right?
Yes, ma'am. You can see in this waveform also. All these are in the x-axis. This is the number of bit. You can see the number of bit 1 to 2. There is the HRV like 400 millisecond to 500 millisecond. Even you can see this 4 to 5. There is heart rate variability, which is between 900 to 800.
Yes. So you have taken, I mean, You have taken 5 or 6 people for this?
5 people, ma'am, 4 men and
5
one
people.
woman.
So what are your future perspective now?
Future perspective, ma'am, from this waveform, we will extract some feature and we will use machine learning, different machine learning classifier to diagnose various.
But in that case, you must have to get big data. I mean, data set should be of at least 50 to 60 patients.
Yes, ma'am. Sure, ma'am. We will take more sample.
Yes, yes. In that case, how you will proceed?
Yes, ma'am.
How you will proceed in that case?
We'll recruit some more people. Then we'll record in the same way.
Oh, is it not given anywhere? I mean, are you not getting any data set from any clinician? You can get it from clinician and you can do the required things.
Yes, ma'am. I can get this signal, but normally in healthcare sector or PPG signal recorded from PPG signal, it is normally used in finger, not use. We cannot get more data about the forehead or earlobe or this.
But the main thing is wherever the data you are finding in a perfect way, you should take that data only. I mean, why you are considering different things where you are not even sure whether that data will help clinicians to take certain kind of decisions.
For this, we need more. We need more sample or more
Yes, yes,
subject to clinically accept this result.
actually. This is quite interesting topic.
Thank you, ma'am.
Some clinician or maybe some doctor should be involved in this.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all the best.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you. Good. Next.
Yes, ma'am. Next presenter is Afrin and Nurani, but instead of her, Supriya R will be present. And paper title is a compile time analyzer to detect violations of programming guidelines.
Hi everyone.
Huh.
One second. Is my screen visible?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, it is visible.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. I, Supriya R, along with my teammates, Professor N.S. Kumar, Afrine Noorani, and Anjali K, are here to present our paper titled Compile Time Analyzer to Detect Violations of Coding Guidelines. So, our tool is a static analyzer for coding guidelines enforcement. By coding guidelines, we mean a specific set of standards or instructions that have to be followed to write good code. Good software development requires developers to follow a set of coding standards. For example, we should avoid the use of global variables to avoid tight coupling of code. Also, we should avoid creating global pointers to variables to a local variable, because this global pointer will become a dangling pointer once the local variable is deallocated. A similar application to check for the structure of the code is in education technology, when the teachers give assignments and they expect the students to use a specific approach. So in real life scenario, in one of the reputed institutions, the professor had asked the students to print the Pascal triangle using dynamic programming. So the students, instead of using dynamic programming, they used first principles to solve the problem and the test cases passed. So here it wasn't easy to check if the students had actually used dynamic programming just through the test cases. Another example is to implement a list using linked list. List can be implemented using an array too, but sometimes the teachers expect the students to use a linked list. Yet another example is to sort the given array using merge sort. There are various sorting algorithms like bubble sort, selection sort, and students tend to use a easier approach to solve the problem. And manual detection of these becomes difficult. So there are few tools available for the first use case, and they can be categorized as code vulnerability and code maintainability tools like Lint. And these tools have no support for user-defined guidelines. Though institutions might have their own custom or non-standard guidelines, these tools don't have support for it. Hence, we have come up with our tool, which is a static analyzer for enforcing coding guidelines. So coming to the methodology, so we have a set of predefined guidelines, which we call it the library, from which the user can choose. So these are the guidelines from the library, and the user can choose from these. Then we have a domain-specific language. So the checks to identify if a particular guideline has been followed or not is defined using the domain-specific language. We call it as the formal structure. So initially, the user can either select a guideline from the library or upload a new guideline that is not present in the library in the form of a formal structure. Moreover, every guideline in the library is mapped to the formal structure that we've made. So here is an example of a formal structure to restrict the depth of looping. So at times, teachers require students to use a more optimized approach to reduce the time complexity. So in those cases, to check if the students have used the right approach, we can check for the depth of looping. So here, all the actions should be specified between state and end state. Here, state indicates the program element. So initially, we create a few variables to keep track of the depth of looping. And then comes the state loop header. So this is the header that contains the iteration. For example, for I is equal to 0, I less than 10, I plus plus is an example of a for loop header. So on encountering this header, we increment the depth by 1. And then we check if this depth is greater than the allowed depth. This allowed depth is taken as an input from the user. If this condition is true, then that is a violation. Then comes the state loop body. So this indicates the body of the loop. So on encountering the loop body, we decrement the depth by 1 since we reach the end of the loop. So all these actions in the formal structure are converted to their equivalent Python code. So next, C parser is the backbone of a tool. So we've developed the C parser using the publish C grammar. For that, we've used a Python module called Ply, which is the Python's implementation for Lex and Yuck. So once the user uploads the formal structure, all the program elements in the formal structure have corresponding productions in the parser. Then we have the parser generator, which modifies the base C parser by appending the code or the actions that is specified by the formal structure to the corresponding productions, and a new parser is generated. So that new parser is the guideline checker.
Yeah, sorry for the interruption. You have 2 minutes left for the presentation.
Okay. So this is the change parser. So all the highlighted lines are the code that was generated based on the actions in the formal structure. So to reiterate, the user first selects a guideline, and then we have the guideline checker that is generated, which is then parsed through the source program to display violations, if any. So if there are multiple lines in the source code violating the guideline, so all those violations are highlighted and shown to the user. So we have few more examples of a formal structure. So this is the formal structure to check if linked list data structure is used. And this is the formal structure to check if dynamic programming approach has been used. So we've tested this tool for a real use case. So we worked as the teaching assistants for the data structures and algorithms course, and we evaluated assignments of fourth semester computer science students, and we've compiled the statistics for the same. So the first problem was to implement a max heap using an iterative approach. So there were around 906 students, out of which 35 students hadn't followed the iterative approach. And the second question was to implement a binary search tree using a recursive algorithm. So out of these students, nearly 268 students hadn't followed the expected approach. We also ran these students' programs against few code quality guidelines, and we've compiled the statistics for the same, and we evaluated them for 5 marks. So now I shall show a small demo of our tool. Due to the time constraint, we've just recorded a demo. I'll just show the gist of it. So this is the user interface of our tool. And then these are the guidelines in the library from which the user can choose. And then if the user wants to enter a new guideline, they can do it by entering the name of the guideline and then uploading a formal structure in the form of a file or typing out in the text box there. And then here we choose the guideline to check for the depth of looping. After that, we upload the programs for verification. So here we upload 2 programs, these 2 programs. And then I will just fast forward. So this is the guideline that we selected, check for loops with depth more than 2. So when we hit on verify guidelines, it takes us to another page where we can see the 2 programs that we uploaded. Both the programs are to print all the Armstrong numbers. So the first approach that we took was we have 3 loops, like all are nested. The depth of looping is 3, but our guideline was to restrict the depth of looping to 2. Hence, since this program violates the guideline, we get this violation saying the depth of looping is greater than the allowed depth along with the line number. Whereas the second program is the variant of the first program, but here we've just used one nested loop, that is the depth of looping is 2. So since this program follows the guideline, there are no violations shown. So this is how our tool works. So that's it we had for our paper. We're open to questions. Is there any question?
Okay, nice presentation. Yeah.
Thank you.
Hello, ma'am. Are you there?
Yes, I am here. Just due to some network issues, not able to. Okay, you can carry on.
Oh, okay, ma'am.
Hannah, carry on.
Nice presentation, Supriya.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Next presenter is Suniti Dutt, and paper title is an exploration of the potential role of augmented reality based pedagogical tools.
I hope my slide is visible, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am, it is visible.
Yes.
Okay. So this particular paper, exploration of the potential role of augmented reality-based pedagogical tools. This is basically a review paper come project carried out by the students of first year engineering at Chandigarh University. So in this particular part, what the students have done is that they have gathered some data in which it's surveyed about 3,000 plus families that 80% of their data of the children, they are using the YouTube videos for studying. They watch the YouTube for more than an average of around 2 hours on the weekends. And, this is, a very great concern because of the actual effects on the body. They can cause dry eyes, they can cause headaches around the eye, they can cause blurry vision. Of course, YouTube videos at the same time, they can be addictive, and there is some inappropriate content which is coming in the form of ads because not everybody can afford the YouTube premium. So such kinds of things are discouraging from the students. If we talk from the point of view of the students, the primary students, the kindergarten students, then what happens is that these students, in order to learn, their parents, they lead them to the YouTube videos, and they're not actively involved in the learning because they're just glued onto their TV screens. All they watch is the cartoons. They are away from the realistic environment in which they are in. So hence the students thought that it would be better if in pedagogical tools, augmented reality is incorporated into being. So this was the basic motivation, because kids are really, really keen to learn, know more things, and they learn more things practically if they are present in the situation rather than just by watching the YouTube videos. So this kind of augmented reality, it allows the students to be in their own environment. They can actually see all the surroundings amongst themselves through a very simple device like your mobile phone. No special equipment is not required for this. And what happens is that in their reality, there is a layer which is superimposed in the front, and that layer contains all the information. So they can see their parents are sitting there, they can see through that particular camera of the mobile. So AR is not something which is new. It's been here for many years. And M. Healy, he was a photographer. He was the first ever to implement the concept of AR in 1957. Earlier, at around the 1960s, there was special equipment like the head-mounted displays, for the virtual reality as well as the augmented reality. But nowadays, for the virtual reality, yes, you still do need special equipment, special headgear, which allows you a 360-degree view and depth of field. But for the augmented reality, all you need is a mobile phone, which has some sensors built into it. It's a smartphone. It has a gyroscopic and the magnetic compass, and it has the accelerometers built into it. And all you need is the second thing is a rear-facing camera. So carried out a literature survey and come into being that there are three different generations of the augmented reality systems. The very first generation was which had very expensive kind of equipment. It had heavy equipment. There were displays and special head-mounted equipment which were there. Then came into being the mobile phones, because mobile phones were still expensive at that particular age, era. So as the digital technologies, they are becoming cheaper and cheaper nowadays, and everybody uses a smartphone nowadays. So this augmented reality, this can be developed and built into a potential and innovative tool for pedagogy. Augmented reality is not the first thing that is being used for the as an innovative teaching tool. And since it's kind of interesting, it does not let you move somewhere else. You are in your environment and you actually visualize what is around, because a lot of different platforms are available which help you get the 3D models of the different things, and you can actually they can view some 3D object in front of you. So this is something which is helping the students to realize things practically. So there are various tools with the help of which you can make your own clips or your own augmented reality clips, like Merge Cube, Catchy Words AR, Bip AR, Spark AR, Plug XR. So a lot of different tools which are existing. And it was a survey which was carried out in 2012 that a lot of students never surpass more than 60% of the marks in science, because of the fact that science was something that they need to visualize. It was not something that they could read in 2D paper or something like that. So in order to obtain those visual things, the 3D realization of things, this definitely helps the students in grasping the scientific concepts of that particular subject. That is the motivation by the 3D viewing into the augmented reality is probable innovation in pedagogy in the future. So there are different use cases of AR in education. For example, in the medicine sector, many AR simulators have been created, and they are able to help to the doctors or the would-be doctors to perform some laparoscopic surgeries. So in civil engineering also, this particular concept is being used to blend 4D building information models into live depiction of the real world. These are also being used in the chemistry, so that the students are able to learn about the atoms and molecules and how they are, placed in a lattice formation in a structured formation in the 3D. AR is also used in mathematics to help the students understand the complex concepts like those of geometry, those of trigonometry, where you have the 3 dimensions or the 4 dimensions, the length, breadth, height, width, so and so on. And this is the motivation behind this. The students currently, they've done this particular literature survey. Of course, this is just a brief of that particular literature survey. I could dive more into it, but because of time constraints, I'm not diving into it. But as a future scope, what the students are doing now is that they have started from the primary kids, pre-primary kids, sorry, the kindergarten kids, and they are developing the resource material for the standard, alphabets and the numbers. And they're not just teaching the alphabets; they are also visualizing certain, objects which are starting from those alphabets. And this will be the phase one, and the phase two will be that this will be implemented in a local school nearby. And when this thing is implemented, we will have a pre-test and a post-test to ascertain that whether the students were able to understand better, by experiencing from such kinds of AR abilities, or were they able to visualize it better with the help of some videos like those on the YouTube. So these are the phase one and phase two, which the students are now going to be working on, and soon will be coming up with their results also. Thank you so much.
I think you have presented the paper in a very nice way, beautiful presentation. Can you just elaborate two contributions of your paper?
Ma'am, this is just a review, the initial review, which was the background that what the students will be working on in the future. Because if this thing is being used for the people, the students, or the who are doing their undergraduate studies or even their postgraduate studies, that why not use this concept for the kindergarten students who are actually glued on to their TVs, because the parents, they do not have time nowadays, and all they do is they just drop on YouTube videos in front of their kids, thinking that if we play the educational videos, they'll learn something out of it. But they don't realize that by simply making them watch these YouTube videos, they are in some other world. They are out of the reality, they are not present inside the scene. But if they are being involved with the help of AR, then yes, they will be in the present, they will be able to see everything in the surroundings. And it's it doesn't require much of a hardware, but the children, they can click on, let's say the child is clicking on the alphabet A, what our students are developing, then different several objects for that letter A will be opening up with the help of a website called the Fab Sketch, which offers us paid as well as free 3D models of the different objects. So we can show them the 3D view of the apple, the 3D view of an aeroplane, and so on. With this AR also, it's not just only about the video or the images, it's also about the audio which is incorporated. So we are also working on the phonics, with the help of which the child can understand how to pronounce it. All this while sitting in the comfort of your home and while having everything in the background. You're just watching your window, and suddenly there's an apple which is popping up, and the student is enthusiastic to learn about that particular apple. So this is our vision.
Right, perfectly said. Just
Thank you,
got
ma'am.
your point. Right.
Yes.
Okay,
Thank you so
for
much.
your presentation.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Suniti Dutt.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes. So we are moving over to next presentation. Next is Rishabh Sinha, and his paper title on develop the data analytics model for employees' performance at workplace to increase the productivity.
Very good afternoon to everyone present here today. So my topic is, as explained earlier, develop a data analytics model for employees' workplace performance at workplace to increase productivity. So members are myself and two other members, Mukund Narayana and my professor Sunil Kumar Dahal sir. Next slide. So these we will be going through introduction, project flowchart, project objectives, research methodology, data analysis and interpretation, findings and conclusion of the project. So let me introduce you to my project. So basically, in an organization, when you go in an organization, human beings are the core drivers of an organization. Without human beings or employees in an organization cannot function. So keeping those employees or human beings satisfied is a core importance for any organization, for any reputed organization, or any organization that wants to grow. So we want to keep the organization's employees job satisfied. So our project basically deals with finding answers to two questions. The first question is whether job dissatisfaction exists in today's era or not, and if it does, can we predict the workplace productivity based on the job dissatisfaction factors that affect the job dissatisfaction? So these are the two questions that we will be answering through this presentation of mine. So next slide. Okay. So this is the project work flowchart. So basically what we did in this was, first we went through, we did an exploratory study. That means we scrutinized every bit of information on the internet, online sources. We went through PRYs, DNAs, Economics Times, and all those sources we could gather, so that we could gather proof that the job dissatisfaction exists in this world. And based on the job, and if the job dissatisfaction exists, what are the factors that are responsible for the job dissatisfaction? So we collected all those for the period of 2016 to 2022. For the last 5 years data we have collected in the business world, and after scrutinizing the data, we could gather factors, and after gathering those factors, we subjected those factors to a questionnaire for primary data collection. We processed those 50 factors into 50 questions, and those 50 questions were subjected to the working professionals of worldwide. And after gathering data from the working professionals, we did the reliability test, followed by the factor analysis to reduce the number of factors to small number of factors, or to reduce the number of dimensions. And then we subjected it to a multiple regression for building our predictive model. And finally, we have the findings and conclusion. So next slide. So what was the objective of the project? What we did in the project was we divided the project into three objectives. The first was to explore the factors that affect the job dissatisfaction, that is with the help of exploratory study. Then second, what we did was to examine the factors through the various data analytics techniques. Like we did the reliability test, the factor analysis test, the multiple regression test to do this for this very objective. And the third one was to build the predictive model for the workplace model for the workplace productivity based on the factors obtained through the data analytics techniques. So these were the three objectives that we wanted to obtain through our project research. So what research methodology we used was, the first one we for the first part of the study, that is the exploratory study, when we needed to gather data. In that case, we use the secondary data collection method, and in the second we use the primary data collection for questionnaire. When we distributed the questionnaire, we did the primary data collection, and lastly we use the methods of factor analysis and multiple regression. So the data analysis and what interpretation we got was, we got the Cronbach alpha test, that is the reliability test value of 0.932. Considering the Cronbach alpha test from 0 to 1, 1 being the ideal value, that is the data that we got after we did the analysis of 50 factors, was reliable. So because the value we got was 0.932, which is a very high value, and ideal value for Cronbach alpha test is 1, which is considered a very reliable value. And then the next part was, we got around 50 factors. So we needed to reduce the factors because 50 factors are too much for any one single person to handle. So we reduced the factors using the factor analysis techniques, and we use the factor loading of 0.70 with a varimax rotation, which is an orthogonal rotation which is used for uncorrelated factors. So we use that, and finally we build our predictive model using the multiple regression technique. Our model accuracy came out to be 84.7% to 78.8%. in adjusted R square, and a p-value which is less than 0.01 in ANOVA table signified that the model that we have built was significant. So moving on. So these were the 22 factors that we have out of, I couldn't list the 50 factors because it would have gone out of the slide. So that is why I didn't list 50. I have listed only those 20 factors that we extracted to the factor analysis. So these were the 22 factors that we have extracted. And based on these factors, we build the predictive model, the workplace predictive model. So what you can see here as it is, so these 22 factors have been integrated in a mathematical form of equation, which will help you predict the workplace productivity. So if suppose if you change the salary in the salary component in the formula, it will automatically impact the workplace productivity. It will, if you increase the salary, based on that, your workplace productivity will increase or decrease. So that is what I mean when I say the predictive model for workplace productivity. And finally, we were through this research, we were able to construct the predictive model. This model will be very helpful for the HR manager at global scale, as it reduces time and cost. It also helps you achieve efficiency in an organization, enhances workplace productivity, and enhancing job satisfaction to foster sustainable workplace. So thank you so much. This is all for my side. Thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Can you come back to your project flowchart slide?
Okay.
Flowchart slide.
Okay, sure. This slide?
Yes.
Okay.
What other tests are available for checking the reliability of the system?
So basically, there were this chi-square test is also there, but we used the Cronbach alpha test because it seemed much more simpler in that way, because we had to do the other two tests as well. So that is why we use the Cronbach alpha test for this.
Okay. And what about multiple regression? Why you have chosen this technique?
Yes, so multiple regression, as the name suggests, we have multiple values, multiple independent values. So that is why we use the multiple regression, and we had one independent value, that is workplace productivity. So that is why we wanted to integrate it in one
Yes,
equation,
sir.
multiple regression technique. That is why we use the multiple regression technique.
And from where you have collected these 52 factors that you shortlisted here?
So that is what I said. During the exploratory study, we gathered this proof. It is all there in the paper. It's there in the paper. Actually, we had written it in the literature review itself. So it is there. In that, we had collected data from various sources. So I'll name those sources like PR Wire, DNA, Economics Times. Magazines are there. Online content is there, because COVID we cannot go outside. So we had to do whatever we had to do with the online stuff. So we did the online scrutinizing of data, and we collected it for 2016 to 2020 on the global, industrial, and Indian level, all those three levels. And we collected both facts and figures. So based on those, we were able to pinpoint 50 major factors, and we actually located more than 50 major factors. But considering the frequency of those factors repeating in the years, over the years, we took only those factors. So that way it became only 50. Actually, it was more than 50. Yes.
Okay, thank you for your presentation.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you, Rishabh, for the kind information, Richard. So all our presentation has begun. So I sincerely thank our all authors for their great presentation and their great contribution in this session. And also I would like to thank our all participants for participating in this conference. I hope I hope this session was informative to all. All the participants would be getting their digital certificates within a 2 or 3 working days through the day. Further, all the papers are already forwarded to Spinger, and publication will be live within 5 to 6 months. So kindly cooperate the team of ICT4SD and GKI, Global Knowledge Research Foundation. We, on behalf of the whole team, thank you so much for your support in this version and previous 6 versions. We happy to have you in the 8th version of the conference, this conference in 2023. I also thank our session chair for chairing the session. Here is a token of your appreciation, ma'am. Thank you so much
Thank you, Riddhi.
for your valuable presence and such a kind information to share with the presenter, ma'am. Ma'am, can you share your suggestion to all the presenter, please? Hello. Okay, no problem. So at the end of the session, I would like to request to all, please turn on your camera to quick snapshot of the virtual conference and good memory. Yes, I request to another also, please, if possible, turn on your camera, please. Yeah. Yes, perfect. So take care, goodbye, and stay safe. All the best for your future, all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.